How's it going, everyone? And very happy new year. So the start of a new year is always so exciting as everyone has dreams and hopes and goals that they want to achieve throughout the year. And for a lot of people, maybe like yourself, one of those goals is to become better at growing your own food. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you 7 tips to help you make your vegetable garden in 2021 the most productive it's ever been. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip for making your vegetable garden really productive in 2021 is building better soil. Now, soil is the foundation of your garden's productivity. And so when you feed the soil, you're feeding your plants. And so organic matter is the key to this. And so adding lots of organic matter such as compost, manures, even mulches on top, all of this organic matter that will go into your soil and help to feed the microorganisms and also larger organisms such as compost worms that live in your soil, and they in turn eat this and digest it. And then once they've finished eating this and consuming it, it actually releases the nutrients from that organic matter so that your plants can then take it up. Not only that, but organic matter also helps to create better soil structure. And so this will help to have better draining qualities of your soil, better water holding qualities of your soil, and also helps to increase your soil's pH buffering and also holds on to more nutrients. And that takes us to our second tip, which is utilizing free organic fertilizer. Now, there are so many organic fertilizers that you can make yourself at home, regardless of where you live and how much space you have. So even if you're living in an apartment with just a balcony, you can make your own free organic fertilizers. And so I'm going to list 3 of my top favorites. So the first one is having a worm farm. Now, in my opinion, worm farms are one of the most underrated assets that a vegetable gardener can have. And I think every gardener should have one in their backyard or on their patio, because not only do they turn your scraps into a beautiful black gold fertilizer known as worm castings, but as well, whenever you add those castings into your garden, not only are you adding fertilizer, and like that fertilizer which is full of nutrients to nourish your plant's requirements, but you also are adding a lot of microbes and also baby worms, so compost worms and their worm eggs, which really help to improve the soil that your plants grow in, and as well your soil structure. So I think having a worm farm is such a good thing to have in utilizing free fertilizer. So the next free fertilizer, which is very, very good, is compost. Now this is because compost is so easy to make, because basically all you need is a mix of brown and green materials. So browns is really anything that's more carbon based and it looks generally drier. So this can be fallen leaves, old hay or straw, anything like that. And then the greens, which is more nitrogen based, which is anything sort of like fresh plant growth, veggie scraps, old plants that you've just cut off, lawn clippings, things like that. And you just mix these together and it breaks down and turns into this black gold really that is known as compost. And this is so good to add to your veggie gardens, as this adds a lot of organic matter to your soil, which has so many benefits as we mentioned before. And thirdly is weed tea. Now, weed tea is so easy to make because basically all you do is pull up a whole bunch of different weeds and then soak them underwater for about 2 to 3 weeks. And this really makes sort of a darker solution. And that happens because all the nutrients in those weeds are extracted by the water. And so then all you do is you take those weeds and you can throw them on your compost or in your worm farm or just straight on your garden beds. And then that solution, you just add more water to it to dilute it down until it looks like a weak tea. And then you water your plants with that and they get a really good hit of nitrogen and a few other nutrients that depending on whatever weeds you used to make that weed tea. So tip number 3 is maximizing space. So a simple way to make your vegetable garden more productive is to simply grow more plants in the space that you have. And so there's multiple ways that you can do this. So vertical garden is utilizing things like stakes and trellises to grow vegetables that otherwise take up a lot of space, like cucumbers and pumpkins. They're a great way to maximize the space and as well reduce the space that those larger plants would otherwise take up, and so you can use that ground to grow more food. Containers are another way to do this, as they allow you to grow food in places and areas that otherwise you wouldn't be able to, such as behind me here. This is a concrete strip, and so otherwise you usually wouldn't be able to grow food on concrete, but containers allows you to really maximize the space that you have and grow food in areas such as that. And denser plantings is another way that you can really maximize your space, as this is really throwing out the traditional old rules about spacings between plants, and you shorten that distance, so you're creating and planting plants in a much denser way, and that way you're fitting more plants within the same space. So really that is another way how you can really maximize your space to make your garden a lot more productive. Now, tip number 4 is simple planning. Now, by drawing a little sketch of what you want to plant and where it's going to be grown, you can visually see what your garden is going to look like, which helps you to maximize the space you have, organize companion planting, and block plants that have similar requirements like water and pH requirements all together, which makes it a lot easier on you during the growing season. And this brings us to tip number 5, which is companion planting. Now, companion planting is where you grow 2 or more different vegetables next to each other that benefit from being grown next to each other. So a classic example I like to use is by growing a legume such as peas or beans next to a leafy green such as lettuce, spinach, or silver beet. And now the leafy greens, they love having nitrogen, so they love having a lot of nitrogen that they can utilize. And legumes actually fix nitrogen from the air into the soil. And so by growing these 2 vegetables next to each other, the leafy green actually has more nitrogen that it can attain from being grown next to the legume, which means that you're going to have better productivity and better harvests from that leafy green, while still getting a really good crop that isn't affected by the legumes. Now, that's just one example of companion planting, but there are so many different examples that you can use and adopt in your own garden to really help increase your vegetable garden's productivity. So tip number 6 is pest and disease control. Now, pest is really defined as anything that is unwanted in your vegetable garden. So commonly, these are things such as insect pests like slugs and snails, grasshoppers, aphids, anything like that, and as well as diseases, weeds, slugs, snails, anything like that. All of these pests and diseases, they actually cause a reduction in the productivity of your vegetable garden. So by adopting and utilizing different control methods and preventative methods to really make sure that these pests and diseases don't occur in your garden, you're really going to see an increase in productivity from the amount of food that you can grow in your garden. So a few examples are making a beer trap to control slugs and snails in your garden, as well as adopting practices like watering in the morning to help prevent the likelihood of a fungal outbreak occurring, and as well using things like mulch to help prevent weeds from growing in your gardens are all examples of controlling pests and diseases. And lastly, tip number 7, which is growing the best varieties for your climate. Now, each vegetable species has so many different varieties, and each variety is best suited to a particular climate and environment. And so by growing the varieties that are best suited to the environment that you live in, you are going to see a much greater increase in productivity and growth from that variety compared to growing a different variety of the same vegetable that is not as well suited to your climate. So for example, if you only have a small patio and so you can only grow food in containers, growing a big, large beefsteak tomato is going to be less productive and less suited to that particular environment compared to growing a smaller cherry tomato, which is much better at being grown in pots. And so therefore you're going to see a better increase in productivity from growing that variety that is better suited to the environment that you're in. So they're my top tips for making 2021 the most productive year for your vegetable garden. So I hope you got something out of this video and really liked it. But also please let me know in the comment section below what your favorite tips are for really being productive in the vegetable garden and making your vegetable garden super productive and getting more and more food from it. I love to hear from you guys. So I'm going to leave it there, but thank you for watching. If you like that, please leave a big thumbs up. And if you have any other comments, suggestions, or questions for me, leave them below in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And lastly, make sure that you subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. You can do that by either clicking the subscribe button below and hitting that bell notification, or by clicking on my face that'll be popping up around here very shortly. And as well, make sure you hit that bell notification and that way you will receive a notification whenever I post a new video here on YouTube, and you can be one of the first to see it. So again, Happy New Year. I hope you all have a very productive year and you're having a great start to the year, and I will catch you all very soon in the next video. Cheers, guys.